Hi, how's it going, everyone? My lips look slightly redder than normal. It's because I actually made myself a smoothie yesterday that had cherries in it, and cherries are quite pigmented. So, yeah, how are you doing, everybody? I hope everyone's good. If you'd like to check out readings, you can check them out on Empress Justice Tarot. I haven't done my vocals in a while. I might actually shut that channel down. I haven't done that in so long. But I only came online really to talk about two things. First of all, I wanted to talk about the inner critic. And the second thing is I wanted to talk about who's really responsible for your own happiness. Now, what I'm about to say is probably not rocket science. So if you want to, if you want to stop watching, you can stop watching. I mean, what I'm about to say has been said 1,000 times, but I felt like it needed to come from the perspective of somebody who wasn't telling themselves that, or, wasn't just telling you to keep your head up. And I felt like it would be beneficial to hear it from somebody who is actually going through said things right now. So the first thing I want to talk about is the inner critic. Now, I'm a targeted individual, which means that everything about myself that is perceived to be a flaw or perceived to be a deviation from white, cisgendered, skinny, young, attractive, all the rest of it, is basically highlighted, through street theatre and through, anything to do with that. So it could be my weight, it could be my race, it could be my sexuality, all that type of stuff, right? What I noticed that happens is that when you're battered enough by the criticism, it doesn't automatically make you want to change yourself to suit the people who have been talking shit about you. What it actually does is it internalizes the pain, but the way in which that pain manifests, it can differ in accordance with each person. Some people will internalize the pain that they're inflicted through this psychological harassment, and then they'll turn around and kind of change everything about themselves in order to appease those those voices inside their head that said they weren't good enough. So in order to appease them, they'll turn around and they'll kind of make changes about themselves in order to appease those voices, which is something that I've done actually. I've just done them in more subtle ways. The second thing that might happen is that you won't actually make the changes that these people say you should make. You won't try to make yourself fairer. You won't try to make yourself skinnier. You won't try to be a straight person, but you might end up turning around and internally criticizing all people who remind you of the things that you suffered that torture for, especially when you see them being happy and you see them living their lives. It might make you internalize that pain and then take that pain out on people who have done nothing to you, just like, the pain that was taken out on you when you had done nothing to anybody. So that's what it makes people do. And that's the thing that people don't really take responsibility for. When you kind of come after somebody about things that are not really anybody else's business, it kind of creates a situation where there's a transference of anger and the cycle of abuse continues. So, taking in those internal criticisms and stuff and not really giving them a healthy outlet, it can cause us to, internalize that, and in our minds, if not out loud, subject other people to that same criticism, when really what needs to happen is that we need to think to ourselves, okay, what's really going on here? We need to kind of really unpack all the things that have been said about us and where that actually comes from. And, and is it really other people's business what you got going on, as long as you're not hurting anybody? If the answer to that is no, then continue on your business. But the third thing that I want to talk about is the effect on our perspective of happiness, which is, it actually bleeds into the second subject that I want to talk about, which is who's responsible for your happiness. Because This is, you know, everybody kept telling me, oh, it's you, you're responsible for your own happiness. And the reason I didn't listen is because I knew people said that out of their own self-interest. They didn't say it because they wanted to see me win. They didn't say it because they wanted to, you know, they wanted me to see the potential of who I was as a person and how I could be. When they said it's you who's responsible for your happiness, because I was so fixated on what was behind that statement, i.e. their self-interest, it didn't occur to me that they were right. Because really, really think about the situation. We live in a white patriarchal supremacy. And yet, you know, in America at least, Black women are the most educated people in that country. I don't know about here, but I know that here, Africans are among the most educated people in this country. And those, you know, and in comparison to Caribbean people who have been here for decades, like, all of this is relatively new, right? So we live in a white patriarchal supremacy, and yet Black people are among some of the most educated people on the planet. That's the first thing. The second thing is women are most definitely second-class citizens, and yet look how many female billionaires have come through, like in this last decade alone. And then on top of that, you know, we keep being sold this idea that you have to be you know, you have to be beautiful, or you have to be thin, or you have to appeal to as many people as possible in order to find the right one. And yet we continually see couples that, you know, that are so-called not pretty, that don't fit into the stereotype of being pretty and you know, being rom-com leads. And yet they manage to find happiness. Even the actors who are like in rom-coms, especially the women, they're not hooking up with people who are, they're not hooking up with men who are Adonises. A lot of them are hooking up with writers and, you know, people who make them laugh. So you kind of look at everything and think, yeah, like this world is strategically designed to go against you and to hold aloft a group of people who are increasingly rare. Because, you know, scarcity equals value in a world like this, right? And yet we've got so many people who are busting through in order to be happy, in order to do their thing. I'm seeing people with ADHD like me, like in happy families. I'm seeing people with depression in happy families. I'm seeing people with, you know, borderline personality disorder like me, who are able to have friends and have a career and have things go right for them. Like, that's when it kind of really dawned on me that, you know what, it really is you. I mean, sure, you won't have the same advantages as someone else. You will never have the same advantages as someone else. You will never have the same advantages as someone else. That's just a fact of life. And that inner voice, coming back to that inner voice, that abusive inner voice that is created and, you know, and built up by other people's hatred, that inner voice will tell you that you will never be happy because of these external things, when that's not the case. The truth of the matter is that if you don't have the things that you want, you don't have them because of you. You don't have them because of you. You don't have them because these internal abusive voices inside your head told you that because you belong to a certain, you know, these certain things in your life, that because you're overweight, or because, you know, all kinds of different things, that you can't be happy, that you can't be in love, that you can't be successful, that you can't be educated, that you can't be this, you can't be that. The irony is that abusive people always want to turn around and accuse people of being, you know, professional victims when they complain about the abuse that's been subjected to them. Abusers always want to use that line, and yet they themselves are saying that you can't have what you want because you don't fit into a society. So abusers themselves are saying that you don't deserve this, or you can't have this because you're Black, or you're overweight, or you're a woman, or you're this, or you're that. Abusers themselves are saying that, and yet they want to turn around and accuse you of being a victim. When you really start to unpack it, When you really start to unpack it, you start to see how ridiculous that shit is. So if it's me, if it's down to me and my attitude towards myself that is holding back my happiness and that is holding back my success and that is holding back, then doesn't it stand to reason that my race and my weight and my femininity and my queerness has nothing to do with it? If it's up to me and I can't blame my parents and I can't blame that, then it stands to reason that I can't blame anything arbitrarily about me either, from my fucking, I don't know if arbitrarily is the right word, but I can't fucking blame my race or my gender or my, I can't blame any of these things on my unhappiness either. And yet the people that abuse me will. Because that's the whole point of making you feel bad. The whole point of making you feel bad is to convince you that you being built the way you are is a barrier to your happiness and is a barrier to all the wonderful things in life that you want and you can definitely have. So these abusers want to turn around and tell you that you can't have this, or you don't deserve to have this. You don't deserve to feel happy. You don't deserve to feel confident because you deviate from a Nazi ideology. You deviate from that. So you don't deserve happiness. You don't deserve success. You don't deserve confidence. These abusers want to tell you that. And then in the same breath, when you bring up that there's racism and then there's abuse in the world, they want to tell you that, no, you're just a victim. Can you pick a side? If it's down to me, and it is truly down to me, which I believe it is, I don't think it's my ADHD getting in the way of my happiness anymore. I don't think it's the BPD getting in the way of my happiness. I don't think it's my race. I don't think it's my weight. I don't think it's my gender. I don't think it's my sexuality. I don't think it's anything. I think it's me. If it goes to reason that if it stands to reason that it's me as a person and nothing more than that, then it stands to reason that there's nothing wrong with my race, that there's nothing wrong with my looks, that there's nothing wrong with my fucking, my gender or my sexuality. There's nothing wrong with any of these things. Because all along, they weren't the things holding me back. Even my mental illnesses, which are illnesses, are not holding me back either, because there are people in my similar situation that is able to have like a happy life. Even other TIs. There are TIs in relationships. Even I was in a relationship. And even though me and this person are not, not in a relationship anymore, we're still talking. We're still friends. I have friends. In spite of everything that's happened to me, I actually have friends. I have my fucking Empress Justice Tarot shit like taking off. It's not taking off in the way that it's supposed to. But then again, I got to admit that's down to me, because sales is not my strong point. So it's you. It really is you. You are responsible for your own happiness. But then if you're responsible for your own happiness, then you've got to reconcile that there's actually nothing wrong with you beyond your mindset. That's the thing that you have to reconcile. You have to reconcile that this society lied to you and told you that you're not good enough based on arbitrary stuff, when really had nothing to do with that at all. And it had everything to do with the fact that somebody needed to hurt someone and talk shit. So if you're responsible for your own happiness, and there's no real barrier to that happiness. I mean, granted, there are physical restraints and restrictions. That's true. But if you really want happiness, you can find it. If you really want goodness in your life, you can find it. If you really want to win, you can find one. It's just a matter of accepting what Spirit gives you within the material constraints, and then you finding a way to move through that in order to make a success of your life. And I'm starting to realize that as a TI, even as a TI that's being fucking bombarded with electronic weaponry and emotional abuse, I'm starting to realize now, I can't believe it took me this long. It's been almost 4 decades of living, and I'm just figuring this out now. That none of this was ever going to stop me. And that the only person to really stop me from getting what I wanted was me, because I couldn't accept myself for who I was. And I don't think I was even aware of who I was. But awareness and acceptance of the self is absolutely crucial. It's absolutely crucial towards getting anything that you want in life, and you can get it. Doesn't matter what the situation is. But then at the same time comes the realization that people talking shit about what you look like or about where you come from, all of those things are based on lies telling you that you're not human enough to deserve any type of happiness. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's an absolute lie. Once you let go of that delusion that, deviating from a standard suddenly means you're not worthy of love or happiness. So when you come to that realization, it does put more responsibility in your hands, but it also empowers you. That's not to say racism doesn't exist. It does. Sexism exists. Structurally, racism exists, sexism exists, classism exists, queerphobia exists. All of these things exist structurally. It is built within our society. It's built into the fabric of our society. All these things are built in there. So I'm not about to sit here and say that, you have to deny all of these things in order to do what you need to do. And as for don't even get me started on the targeted individual community, which gets so much shit every single day. That is also interwoven into our society. Oppression on every single level, that's interwoven into our society. There is no denying that. But the part that I want to re-educate people on is that just because this society treats you like there's something wrong with you intrinsically, it doesn't mean that there actually is. And that belief that something is intrinsically wrong with you because you don't fit, it's messing up your life. It's messing up your life. And it's something that you don't need to hang on to. Listen, man, all the whole thing, like I've been looking back on all the things that I got so much shit for. There are other people who had that same shit and have gone on to be happy. Gone on to have wonderful lives. Having the things that I was slagged off about. So I'm thinking, how is any of that a barrier to me being great? If there is a barrier to me being great, it's me. It's not any of those fucking things. And part of kind of breaking free of the street theater trap, of the psychological trap, is realizing that. So people want to talk so much shit about what you have, but it's not any of those things that are holding you back, because those things can't prevent you from being happy. They can't. Only you can. Only you can. Only you can. As a person. It's got nothing to do with anything else. And again, it's like 4 decades of me realizing that. But instead of using this as an opportunity to blame yourself about what you haven't done, about what you haven't understand something, everybody is operating from their own self-interest. Everybody is operating from your own self-interest. Why not use that self-interest to make yourself happy? Why not use that self-interest to realize that, you know what, I can have what I want. I don't care what this world thinks of me. I can have what I want. The fuck? Why should you be denied? Every single person in this world is operating on their own self-interest. Why should you, no matter where you come from, no matter what's going on in your life, even if you're a TI, why the fuck should you be denied? Why should you be denied? Why? You know what I mean? That make no sense. Why should you be denied? Oh, but you look like this. You're this race or you're this class. Yeah, and fuck off. I mean, and I bought into that life for so long. I bought into those lies for so long. The one thing that I'm fortunate about is that I didn't buy enough into the lies for it to kind of ruin me completely. And I'm glad I never did that. I'm glad, I'm too hard-headed for that. I'm very, very glad about that, because if I wasn't, my self-esteem would be in the fucking floor. But it does put a lot into perspective when you realize it's ultimately you. It's ultimately you. It's you. It's a daunting responsibility, but it's also really, really empowering. You know, BoJack Horseman has this character called, I can't remember what his name was. He's a hamster. I think it's Fluffy McWhiskers or some shit like that. This fucking show. Okay, BoJack hamster. Cuddly Whiskers. So Cuddly Whiskers is a writer, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He said something along the lines of, it takes a lot of clarity to see that your life sucks. And it takes even more clarity and even more strength to see that it doesn't have to be that way. And being self-interested and utilizing that self-interest in a positive and constructive way, it involves being responsible for your own happiness and deciding that no matter what station of life you find yourself in, you're going to be happy, and you're going to make yourself happy, and you're going to make yourself free, and you're not going to give a fuck what anybody has to say. You're going to make yourself happy on your terms. And that's the end of it. That is it. That is it. Nothing more to talk about. But I'm paraphrasing and adding a little bit of spice to it, It takes a lot to realize you're not happy, and it takes even more to realize it doesn't have to be that way. And it takes work, but it's worth it. So yeah, when you think about it like that, it doesn't make this thing of people disrespecting you any easier to deal with, but it does give you an additional motivation to see, you know what? That's a them problem. But anyway, I hope I explained it. I don't explain things very well because, Havana syndrome and all that is quietly killing my brain. So, it's not gonna be that way forever. I know it's not gonna be that way forever, but I hope I made sense, and I hope you guys have a good evening. I love you guys very much. Peace and blessings. Bye bye.